Let's take care of square root function, and first let's talk about the domain. We are not allowed to have negative under the square root, so to find a domain, we simply take what under the square root function and we set it greater or equal to 0 and we solve for it. Now I always try to graph to see where the function goes. So it goes from 3 to positive infinity, and that's how I write my interval notation. Okay, so number 15, exactly the same. I'm going to take 8 minus 2x and I put it greater or equal to 0 and solve for it. Don't forget, when you divide by a negative number, you have to flip the sign. So it's going to be less than or equal to 4. So if I graph, I'm going to have 4 here. And then we go this way. So the domain is going to be from negative infinity and we stop at 4. All right, so let's try to graph the function. You can simply plot some points, but you can see right here the domain. We solve for the domain, and you can see that the domain is gonna be greater or equal to 4. So that's where we start. We start at 4, x equals 4 right here. Okay, so please don't put anything, don't pick any number less than 4. Now for the table, I can simply try to pick numbers so I can get perfect square. Once I get perfect square, I take the square root, I get a whole number. Okay, so we already picked 4. If I pick 5 minus 4 is 1, and when you take the square root, you get 1, which is good. But so we have 5 minus 4, so the answer is going to be 3. Okay, and then you can pick 8. I tried to get 4 under the radical, so that's why I pick 8. So I have 8 minus 4, which is 4 square root, which is 2. 2 times 3 is 6. If you want to pick another one, you're gonna try to get 9. So pick a number that would give you 9. So 13 minus 4, that's gonna give you 9. Okay, but anyway, I think 3 points are good. So 5, 3, 8, 6. Anyway, if I put 13 here, it's going to give me 9. So 13, 9, just right here. That's enough for me to graph. Okay, so same thing for number 17. You want to pick something. Now in this case we have the cube root, so you want to create a perfect cube. So when you take the cube root, you get the number. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna try to create the cube, the perfect cube. Okay, so how about because we have 3 in there, so we already have 3. So the first cube root I can think of is 8. So I can pick x to be 5, because when you put 5 in here, you're gonna get 8, and when you take the cube root, you get 2. Okay, I can try to get 1 because 1 is also the perfect cube. So if I pick negative 2, I'm gonna get 1. I can also pick -3 because we can definitely take the cube root of a 0. Okay. Let's try to make another negative number. I can always pick. How about -11? In this case, I'm going to get -8, and when I take the cube root, I'm going to get -2. Okay, let's just plot the points now. So we have -2, 1. We have -3, 0. And we have -11, -2. Okay, so the graph's gonna go like this, with the curve right here. All right, moving on to number 19. So this is rational inequality. So just like quadratic inequalities, you want to find a boundary point. So the boundary points, you take the numerator, you set it equal to 0. Take the denominator, you set it equal to 0. So x gonna give you -6 here, x -1. And then you simply test the point. So when I test the point, I'm going to put -6, I'm going to put -1 here. So I pick some point, let's pick -10 here. All I care about is positive or negative. And in this case, we want negative because less than 0 here. So that's going to be negative. So if I have -10 on top, I plug it in right here. I plug it in right here. So on top, for the numerator, I'm going to get a negative. For the denominator, I'm going to get a negative. A negative divided by a negative is a positive. From -6 to -1, I'm going to pick -3. I put it on in the numerator, I'm going to get a positive. Denominator, I'm going to get a negative. So when you divide, you get a negative. This one, I'm going to take 0. So I'm going to get a positive on top, positive on the bottom. So it's positive for the quotient. Now, like I mentioned earlier, we want negative here. So we only want the middle one. Now you have to be careful. You see right here, we have the equal sign. But you only want to include -6. Because if you include -1, that's going to make the bottom equal to 0. And we do not want the bottom one to be 0. That's undefined. So your final solution is just only include -6. And -1, you have to keep it parenthesis.